Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds.
Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month.
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Today on CityCast Philly, on Wednesday, thousands of Philadelphians will march from 17th and Market Streets to City Hall and down South Broad Street in the Mummers Parade. It's a 125-year-old New Year's Day tradition, totally unique to Philly. And while it's been an annual thing, it's also had some criticism. Justyn Myers is the captain of the Lobster Club, one of the Mummers brigades that's marching in the parade. He's also the guy who built a dumpster pool and dived into a flooded Vine Street Expressway. I'm speaking with him about what the Lobster Club has planned for this year, how it tries to be inclusive, and what his next antic will be. It's Monday, December 30th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Justyn, you are a special Philadelphian. I just want to say the first thing I noticed about you was the hoodie that you're wearing. Folks cannot see this hoodie, but is it of a steak or
ribeye
meat? Yeah.
It's called the meat. It's a 3-piece, actually. I have sweatpants, a hoodie, and some meat sweats.
Okay. Justyn, how do you introduce yourself to folks?
Try to be as humble as possible, but it's how my friends introduce me to other people. You know the guy that jumped off 676? Yeah, this is the guy. I'm like, hey, how's it going?
Are you from Philly?
Yeah, I'm from Frankfurt, so
Wow.
Northeast, born here, traveled the world, but I got out of the neighborhood, but I'm still here.
Okay. So speaking of the guy who jumped off of 76, before that, in 2016, you turned a dumpster into a pool. What's the story behind that? I saw some pictures. It is like a construction dumpster that you might see on like a work site. And there's you in some water on top.
Yeah. Well, I was living in Fishtown at the time and throwing these block parties. It was a corner property, so I had like the whole street where we could just do whatever. So then I bought a slip and slide the first year, a 2-lane slip and slide, and we started using that. And I was like, I really want a pool this year, but I didn't want to get like the Walmart pool because I would have to do something with it. So I was like, I'll just rent a dumpster, and then I'll give it back.
But you can't like legally do that, right?
I don't think, well, there's no real laws, but once I did it and it got traction, I think everybody wanted to do it.
So you called like dumpster companies to see like if you could rent it to make it into a pool?
Yeah, I quickly learned that should not be the approach because no dumpster company said yes. And then I was like, I'm just going to store some material in it and I give it back empty. So he's like, okay.
That was the workaround.
Yeah, and it got a half price, showed up, dropped it off.
But there were rules to this. Like you set the rules on who could go for a swim, right?
Well, yeah, the rule was if you couldn't get in, you couldn't swim. So there's no steps or ladders to it. It was 5 feet tall. So if you can get in, go for it.
So like no kids could really like
There was like
enjoy
kids
swim.
hour, but not really. It's adult swim.
Why do you do this?
For fun. I try to like provide an opportunity for people to see the city in a different way too. Like I'm from here, so I kind of know the rules and I've seen it. So why not? Why not?
What inspires you though?
Just everybody getting together. I really like when everybody gets together. That's why I started my own lobster mummer club.
Ooh, we'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm. But, so block parties were fun. And I like antics. I like people having a good time. So I think all that grouped in.
What has been like the response from your neighbors when they saw the pool?
Oh, they love it. They kind of knew, Justin's up to something. You know, my whole block loved it. Everybody was just like, this is the best block party ever. And it'll go down as like one of the better block parties that they've had and I've had. So
Do you still have block parties?
not yet. I moved, so I'm still getting, lay of the land, getting to know my neighbors.
Right, yeah.
You know, back in Fishtown, I was my block captain. You know,
nice.
I did all that, did all the community cleaning and street sweeping and stuff like that.
Now, before the dumpster pool, did you do another antic before?
Yeah, I think before that, in 2010, I competed in the Red Bull Flutog competition and won first place for that. I made a large hat that represented like the Phillies, but then like MLB threatened to sue, so we had to like strip all the Philly stuff out of it, and it actually worked in our favor because I made my then girlfriend, now wife, a huge Fanatic outfit to wear, but then they threatened to sue, so I went to like Masquerade and bought this like slutty ball girl outfit. And she gets up there and her dress is flying all over and the crowd's going nuts. And that pretty much what sold it. And then we flew off. It was pretty good.
I'm going to assume that you love Philly just as much as maybe I do.
Yeah, I got a lot of Philly pride, you know. I get frustrated with it so every once in a while, but yeah.
So then in 2022, it rained really bad, Hurricane Ida.
Mm-hmm.
And the Schuylkill flooded. And the water filled basically 76 or the Vine Street Expressway. You decided to do a backflip in this massive amount of water.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, simply, you got to seize the moment, right?
But that's like not what I would have did. I would have just like, oh, it's flooded. I better go another direction. But you saw an opportunity.
Well, so in the summer, what I do is I have this trip. It's a motorcycle cliff diving trip where I take my motorcycle up through the Catskills and the Appalachian Mountains and find these swimming holes and jump off these cliffs into water. Not on the bike, just
What a thrill.
That's great. And I just finished that trip with my boy Fall Guy. And I'm like the week prior and I'm at work. I'm at work and I'm like, wow, 676 flooded. I bet I could backflip off that thing. Hold up. I do it. I go home, I shower, I go back to work. I just had to do it, you know?
You are fearless. What was the response? Because that made headlines. And I read CBS 3. You had a quote and basically exactly what you said. It's like I was never going to have this opportunity again, stripped down to my boxers and hit it.
Yeah. That sounds like me.
But what if something were to happen?
It's a calculated
that's a risk, right?
It's a calculated risk. So, I mean, I checked it out. I went down. I kind of referenced Google Maps in the relationship. I was look at the map. And I'm like, well, there's a street sign there. I can't see it here. So I kind of gauged the depth. And then you're just kind of going off of someone said, you could have hit a car. I'm like, there's not a car there. Like, why would a car be, like, still on 676 flooded in the water? I don't know. It's silly. You know, the general concern about health was, appropriate, I think. But I was okay. I got tetanus shots and actually really didn't feel any effect health-wise.
Would you do it again?
Yeah. I just did this antic this summer where I had a friend pass away and he did a lot of suspension stuff with like hooks in your back. And he always tried to get me to do it. And I never did it. And then at his funeral, his friends came up to me and said, hey, we want to pull Doug's bus. And I immediately knew they wanted to put hooks in their back and pull this bus. And I was like, all right, well, I got one caveat. I'm doing it too. And I had never done it before, but I put hooks in my back and we got strapped to this bus and pulled the bus down the street at his funeral.
Wow.
Yeah, it was probably wild.
Do you have limits? Is there like something, that's like, oh, no, that's too far?
Sure. Yeah.
What is it? What's your limit?
Well, last year I'm doing these cliff jumps. I'm on this like 80-foot rock and I backflipped and I didn't think about it enough and I over-rotated and ended up like in the hospital. Nothing bad, just my insides kind of got pushed around, but I wouldn't do that again.
Okay.
And my wife's like, I don't want you. Yeah, so I got limits. As I get older, I'm 44, so.
What is it about Philly that you think makes all of this possible, all of your antics, all of the things you get to do?
You know, you just see so many things go down in the city and you're like, wow, you know, how'd they get away with that? Or, you know, something like that.
Like bad things or
Bad
good things?
Good things, you know. We're just hardworking. You know, if you do the right thing, nobody cares what you do.
Are you doing this to be remembered?
Nope, I do it for myself. You know, I just do it for like my own personal enjoyment.
But you will be remembered.
Yeah, headlines say, yeah.
Yeah. When we come back, we'll learn more from Justyn about what he's got planned for this year's Mummers Parade.
I'm James McComb, reporting live from home in my bathrobe and slippers. Tonight, we're talking Dunkin' Polar Peppermint Coffee. Gene's here with the latest. Gene, do you copy?
The home with Dunkin' is where you want to be.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
You mentioned earlier mummers.
Mummers.
You are a mummer. I have an uncle in town. He's from Atlanta, Georgia. And I was telling him, like, I get to talk to a mummer today. But how can I, like, describe what actually is a mummer? What is the Mummers Parade? How would you describe it?
Well, the Mummers Parade is the oldest folk parade in the country. It started in 1903. And it was a way to it was a Swedish thing. And then over the years, it was Swedish, Irish, German, and kind of evolves. But it was a way to represent your neighborhood. That's kind of how it started. And over the years, it kind of changes. But right now, the Mummers is like Philadelphia's Mardi Gras, right? It's like a day of celebration. And you have different categories and clubs. And they still represent their clubs, you know, and it's competition. It's judged. I'm part of the comic brigades, which is like the lower tier. And then you have like the fancy brigades who perform inside the convention center. And then you have the string bands, who I think are the shows, because they dance, they play music, they make costumes, they choreography, they got it all.
What got you into the mummers?
Originally, I was like, I did this, I went to this concert in Atlantic City. I went to a Mo show in Atlantic City, and I stayed up all night, and I took the train home, and I like landed at like 8th and Market, and here's this parade going on. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Everybody's drinking, and I'm like, this is cool. I want to come back to this. So that was like 2001 maybe. And I didn't have family in the Mummers, so it's not like a lineage thing for me.
Okay.
I just saw some people having fun. I'm like, this is fun. So then in 2010, a friend of mine she knew I made props and I can make costumes and stuff. She asked if I could help with her Fancy Brigade costumes. And I joined the Fancy Brigades for 2 years. Shout out Golden Crown. And I made costumes, and I kind of saw what it took to do it. And I made me realize that it's attainable.
So, like, you're good on a sewing machine.
No, I use glue.
Oh, okay. Do you have like a signature style?
Kind of. We have a formula. Not quite a style, but we buy a base costume, and then I make everybody in the club pretty much bedazzle it themselves, but like uniformly. This year we have these blue outfits, and then we're doing purple micro dot, and then we line it with sequin.
So the brigades have themes.
Yep.
Tell us about some of the themes that brigades do.
So the Mummers Parade in itself, it's an opportunity to kind of poke fun at the city in a satirical comedy way. You have 2 minutes to perform a skit that like says something, right? Some people just go out there and wave their arms around. My club, we like to make like social issues. The one year we did the property tax Price is Right. I made a full-size Price is Right wheel, and we had contestants come and spin the wheel to find out what their property taxes were. Contestant 1 was a developer, and he got a 0. Contestant 2 was hipster home buyer. They spun it. They got an abatement. And then the old lady shows up, and she spins it, gets the $1.
She gets, okay.
And she has to pay 100% of her property taxes.
Interesting.
You know, we did one where it was catalytic catastrophe, where everybody dressed as cats and they were stealing these catalytic converters.
What idea are you going for this year?
This year, one of the guys I started the club with, he passed away. And so we're going to tribute him. Doug Zachman was a great film producer. He was a very creative guy.
This is Doug's bus.
Doug's bus, yep. So we're going to tribute Doug. Doug, he loved horror and he loved blood. He did special effects. He worked on Unsolved Mysteries. He played Mothman in Unsolved Mysteries. So we're doing Night of the Living Doug. And it's going to be all zombies.
That's special.
Yeah, he started the Brooklyn zombie crawl 15 years ago and did it for like 10, 15 years. Terrorizing Manhattan with all these zombies. It was great.
So you're going to terrorize Philly?
Yeah, in the Mummer way.
In the Mummer way.
Yeah.
Your brigade is called Lobster Club. When did they start that?
So actually, the Lobster Club is the oldest running comic club in the parade. 1908 was the first year they marched. They marched to about the 60s and then stopped. And then they were kind of dormant, but they had a clubhouse. And in 2012, when I kind of wanted to do my own thing, I found this club. I was like, hey, can I use your club name and use your club? And they said, okay. And we've been using it ever since.
How does someone get to be a part of Lobster Club or any Mummer brigade?
There is a mystique that, you know, it's a very secluded, tight-knit community that you can't really get into, but anybody can be a mummer. Anybody can join a club. It's actually encouraged because we're, you know, losing numbers. So it's great that people can start their own clubs.
Why are you guys losing numbers?
People are getting old, you know, change of guard. People are, like, turned off by it, you know, so.
I mean, there's a thing where some folks have called out the members for being racist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I want to do is I'm trying to change that narrative. Like there are mummer brigades that do suck, you know, and they're jerks and they're drunk assholes. And, you know, that does happen. But I want to be like, no, we can make this parade better. You know, through involvement, through inclusion, you know.
How do you get maybe Philadelphians who weren't participating in the mummers to participate if you want to continue this tradition?
I stand behind my club. So I try to bring people in who I think are a good fit or who would want to do it. I encourage anybody to do it. For my club personally, I haven't really encouraged anybody to start their own club. But, you know, I try to just show them that this is why we do it and a really great community that I have around me.
What's the next antic? I
got this whole other bit where it's I got this Instagram handle called Hydrant Hooligans. I open up fire hydrants and I have these like the dumpster pool. I take these Jersey barriers and I make swimming pools out of them. And I go all over the city and I just make these pop-up swimming pools. And so you can follow me on Instagram, Hydrant Hooligans, and then I post where I'm going to be, and then we just have a pool party.
Isn't that like not good in case there's a fire?
If there's a fire, I'm going to see it. I'm going to be like, okay, shit, there's a fire right there. I'll turn the fire, you know. But what I'll do is I'll fill the pool up, turn the hydrant off.
Does anyone come for you? Like,
the first time I did it, right, I set up this pool, and it was like in this trucking lane of like this shipping company. And so the lady that owned the company called the cops. Paddy wagon show up, fire truck shows up. And I'm excited because I made this like copper manifold for the hydrant to kind of like direct the water so it's not so wasteful, right? I had 5 hoses, I'm doing the bit. And I'm excited to show this fire truck guy like, hey, look at this thing. Walks over and he's like, listen, man, if I got to come back, I'm just taking your stuff, all right? And that was it. So I shut down, moved, never came back, never had a problem. But people do come to swim.
So really your mission is to bring folks together. Mm-hmm. And you get to do that through the Lobster Club. You get to do that through your other antics around the city. Mm-hmm. And that's what you want to be known for.
Mm-hmm. Is everybody getting together? Power in numbers.
Justyn Myers, thank you so much for being here on CityCast Philly.
I had a great time talking with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. The Members Parade kicks off at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 1st. And if you want to see the Fancy Brigade finale, that's also on Wednesday, January 1st. There's 2 shows, one at 11:30 a.m. and one at 5 p.m. It's all going down at the Pennsylvania Convention Center. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode, tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. This is our last episode of 2024, but we'll be back on Thursday, January 2nd, with more news from around the city. Happy New Year, and be safe, y'all. Bye.